as I said now, by Andrew May, who is from Cricket Ireland, and Heatley Tector from HPV Studios, who have been putting together the coverage which has been going out to both a domestic and indeed a global audience. Heatley, if I can come to you first of all, can you give us an overview of the kind of production which you and your team have been delivering for Cricket Ireland since the restart of the domestic season?
I'm delighted to do so, but before I do so, morning Rob, and good morning everyone who's with us this morning, and it's lovely to be here. So in terms of Cricket Ireland, I did my first stream actually for Cricket Ireland back in 2013 when Ireland were playing Sri Lanka in Clontarf. So it has been a long journey. It's been I suppose, a sporadic journey. And by that, I mean, over the years, you know, I wouldn't have known year on year as to how many games we were going to cover. Perhaps we were going to cover the showpiece games that Sky didn't take. But it was difficult to plot and plan, and it was difficult to just look forward as to how things would look in the cricket world. However, I suppose this time last year, maybe a little earlier, Andrew May from Cricket Ireland and myself got together, and we decided to see if we could put a package together which could, I suppose, stream every inter-pro game for men and women, as well as the international games for the women and for the men. And for the men, I'm talking about the games again, which Sky don't take. So fortunately, we were able to put a package together, which was acceptable to both ourselves in HPV Studios and to Cricket Ireland. And that package has now been running really since the start of May. And so every game that we cover, and we've covered nearly 35 games in the last 6 weeks, is either a 3 or 4 camera production. The sort of 3 things that I'm very conscious of and why I think we've been very successful this year is 1, the quality of product that we've been showing, 2, the quality of production that we've been running with, and 3, the importance of delivering the message as to where people can go to watch the stream. They are the 3 key ingredients. And when you look at those 3 ingredients, it's culminated in nearly 4 million people having seen our work over the last 6 weeks. That's a staggering figure. And I suppose cricket is a slightly unusual sport in Ireland, Rob, in that it's a very fast-growing, some would perceive, minority sport. However, it's the 2nd largest sport in the world.
It's a staggering number.
It is a staggering.
4 million people.
Well, it's exactly. I have it here in front of me. I just got it this morning. It's 3,602,000 have watched us.
Like that's up at the level in streaming terms that ITV were showing on the England-Scotland game, which is the biggest sporting event in England for the last 4 years, and that it should be on a domestic game is quite incredible. We'll talk a little bit later about where that audience is coming from. If I can bring you in, Andrew, it is always a pleasure to have the chief financial officer from an organisation on, because you'll have a slightly different perspective perhaps than those of us on the softer marketing and management side of it. The conversation, which Heatley says that about putting together a package that was suitable for all. What's the motivation of Cricket Ireland in terms of this? Is it visibility of the sport and encouraging young people to take it up? Is it providing an opportunity for sponsors to get involved, or is it something different?
Good morning, Rob. I'd have to say it's probably all of those. There's not one particular element. Visibility was absolutely key. to get visibility not only in the men's game but also the women's game. Sponsorship, we talked about ensuring that sponsors do have a platform there for eyes on their brand is also critical. It also brings in opportunities not just for Cricket Ireland, but right throughout the game, right down to the provincial union level with their sponsors, whether that's a local hotel, right through to an international sponsor for Cricket Ireland. For the players as well, they're very much they get eyes on themselves. As Heatley said, cricket is is second most popular international sport globally. So the range of not only spectators, which is domestic, and that's very important for the local domestic game, but also when you look at the viewing numbers and the breakdown of the viewing numbers and the range of countries and the international viewers that are part of it is again of greater interest to maybe more the international style company that wants to get involved in sponsorship. And look, you go all the way down to the coaching staff who, whilst they would have had to probably go along to a lot of the games that Heatley talked about, the 30 odd games that we've had so far this season domestically. Now they don't. They can actually look at those games from start to finish. Even players themselves can go back and look at a replay of the match and look at their batting section or their bowling section to see how they perform themselves. So it brings value, I think, right throughout the whole game, not only commercially, which obviously I'm very much interested in, but I think even from our marketing and communications people, Niamh O'Shea, who's our marketing manager, Craig, who's our media and comms manager, they've been working hard in the background for a number of years to build up the following. These numbers didn't just drop out of the sky, and we'll probably come to that later, but there's been a long road of building up social media following organically, because we wouldn't have had the biggest marketing budget on the planet. And that has given rise to, I think, at the moment, from a Facebook point of view, we've one of the highest followers in any sporting organization. So again, it goes sort of hand in glove. The product itself, as Heatley said, I think is a very, very high quality product. The fan engagement element has been worked on for a number of years. And that, I think, the timing element of everything which was being discussed throughout the previous presenters and around, live streaming actually coming to the fore now during lockdown, our timing has been a key factor as well, Rob.
It is, it's evident that we live in a visual world, and I was struck just looking at the little teaser shot that we showed on the way into this section, that if I was to go to a school and tell a bunch of young girls, how great cricket was and how wonderful it was, I could speak for 8 hours and never get across to them the same emphasis as we saw in 30 seconds there. A little bit of post-production, a little bit of action, a little bit of a few smiles and all the rest. So that side of it is really important. But I'm particularly interested in that international side, because Ireland became a test nation only in recent years. We're still with the new kids in the class, and the power brokers in at Lords might be more familiar with things, but the real power brokers in India and in Pakistan, this is a real opportunity for them to see our players as well. I guess that's very important without being able to actually put a financial value on it. But from a public affairs perspective, I guess it's really important for you.
It is. The Asian market is key to Cricket Ireland. It is a minority sport currently in Ireland. When you look at commercial revenues, when you look at commercial income, to sustain the professional game in Ireland, we have to bring in overseas sponsors, overseas revenue streams. And India is a key market for us. You look at the viewing numbers there. the viewing numbers out at 3.6 million, India viewers would have taken the lion's share of those. And the age profile would have been quite young as well. So that's absolutely key for the players themselves. They are in the shop window. You're looking at T20 leagues franchises globally is a key, I suppose, potential revenue stream for players. So getting noticed, not only for the men but also for the women now. So getting noticed and seeing the talent that's on show, and what they're capable of is certainly a positive for players as well, I'd say, Rob.
It was interesting when Ireland did come back from lockdown last year and played the game, which we won against England in Southampton. It was the Indian Skoda that was the team sponsor at the time. So clearly, the commercial world of cricket is very much outward looking. Heatley, if I can come to you, Andrew said there that the lion's share from India. What data can you share in terms of that, the domestic audience versus the international, and where that breakdown is?
Yeah, well, I suppose, Rob, I'd like to go back to something you said just a minute ago, which is you could go into a national school and speak for 8 hours, and that may have some small effect. Well, I'd like to take you back 3 weeks when we were streaming a game up in Eglinton, just outside Derry. And the Northwest Cricket Union, in their wisdom, informed many of the local national schools that this game was going to be streamed. We gave them the link, and the schools that had a television in their school, of which there were many, put the game on for the day. And the reaction we got was just absolutely fantastic. I have seen since then so many different national schools up in and around the Derry area playing, softball cricket in their schoolyard and so on and so forth. So, whilst we're streaming, we've got to be innovative, and particularly the Northwest Cricket Union were enormously innovative for that game in Eglinton. And as it happens, following this phone call, I'm on my way up to Derry, where we are going to be streaming T20 cricket this coming Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And I know we're going to have lots of young children who saw cricket for the first time only 3 or 4 weeks ago on the ground, looking at what it's like live. So and now
getting them watching it, and then getting them out onto the crease and
it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I suppose Andrew is right, of course, in everything that he says about the international market being crucial. And of course, cricket in India is the be all and end all. It's an enormous sport in the world's largest country. So whilst we're very interested in the numbers viewing from that part of the world, it's also enormously encouraging to see our viewing numbers both in Ireland and in the UK. And again, over the past couple of weeks, when I look at the viewing numbers from both countries, I'm looking at about 150,000 over the past month, which is colossal. I mean, they are tremendous numbers. I think, as one of your former guests have said, the streaming genie is out of the bottle and it ain't going back. Once the cameras are rolling, and they have been rolling now, I think they're going to continue to roll. And I think the key is we're not a broadcast entity, but we are an entity that likes to stream things to the very best of our ability. Replay is so important in cricket, as it is in so many other sports. The quality of our commentators, hugely important. The quality of our guests. For instance, we were doing a game in Stormont in Belfast 2 weeks ago, and I got word on the morning of the game that Mary Peters, the great Mary Peters, was going to be in attendance. She came on air for half an hour, and it was fascinating to look at our numbers while Dame Mary Peters was on air. And if I could just say, we recently had a women's international series between Ireland and Scotland in Belfast, which was a brilliant series of high quality cricket from the Irish women and their Scottish counterparts. But again, the numbers that we had watching that were just colossal, and it bodes very well.
It does indeed, and being able to capture the content, broadcasting it live, and then to repackage it and replay it out again as well is really important. Can I bring you back to the start of the conversation? You said that this arose out of a package which worked for HBV Studios and which worked for Cricket Ireland. Part of that will be sponsorship and commercialization of the stream going out. What's the reaction been like on the ground from business in terms of seeing what you do, liking the idea of getting their name attached to it, and entering into discussions about exactly that?
Well, I suppose, Rob, this I have looked at this project as sort of a marathon project. For a start, I was very fortunate that Cricket Ireland, through Andrew, were delighted to enter into a 3-year agreement. So that in so many ways was very important. In terms of the commercialization of the product, I really was keen not to press that button until I knew we had a solid platform from which we could progress. And we have, over the past 6 weeks, proved that we've had a very solid platform. I mean, one of the key issues with streaming is internet. You must have quality internet. And that has been an issue in terms of bringing cricket and showing cricket from around the country, because not every cricket ground has quality internet. And I have learned, I've got fussy over the years, that if the internet is not of a sufficient standard, if the upload speed is not of a sufficient standard, I'm really not happy to do the stream, because you'll only end up with a buffering product, and no one is a winner out of that. So Cricket Ireland, in their wisdom this year, Rob, we have been very careful as to what grounds we've gone to. We have done considerable work before we've done a stream. We've gone to the ground, spent days, in fact, at the ground, making sure that everything is okay, and making sure, again, with our streaming product, I like to have a gantry or scaffolding behind the bowler's arm, and making sure that there's room to have a considerable piece of scaffolding, because not all grounds have that space, So there's been just a lot of work has gone into where we are now, and we are now just about ready to hit what I would call the commercialize button. And in relation to your question, what has been the reaction on the ground? Thankfully, it's been colossal. We are now, both Cricket Ireland and ourselves, are now ready to enter into the next phase of this agreement, which is the commercialization element of things.
That is going to be a really important part of it, the whole infrastructure, because we can't see broadband. It tends not to feature as highly as building a new toilet block or putting in a few extra seats on the side of the ground. But we used to drive around Ireland on what were little more than boreens and have to pass through 105 sets of traffic lights driving from Dublin to Belfast or Dublin to Cork. Now we have a much better infrastructure system. So that's going to come as well, I guess. But from your perspective, Andrew, is that something that you feel as though you're going to need to set money aside for? Will you use the Capital Sports Programme to get government assistance in terms of upgrading? And is in our modern world, is a robust internet structure just as important as a shiny plaque over the door?
Yeah, most definitely, Rob. Looking at the quality of internet and the 5G network, I think is going to be a game changer for this industry in the coming years. We have been in discussions over the last number of months around using our own internal funding to try and set aside some money for clubs that require an upgrade in internet. Clubs tend to be of the older nature. You know, some clubs have very, very good because they're central. Some clubs are outlying in more of a rural environment, and that does pose challenges because no matter what money we throw at the club to get their internet up, they're still reliant on the local infrastructure. It is something that Sport Ireland do heavily support on through innovation funds and capital grants. So we absolutely encourage clubs to go through that mode first, and failing that, long-term strategically, we want to see all our say key domestic elite venues support, and that's a funding mechanism that the board are talking through, and it's very much a key part of our strategy in the coming years.
It's a future which is laid out before us, and which we're going to be able to watch everything. There was a line from a famous old song about the revolution will be televised. Well, every aspect of sporting future is going to be televised now through the medium of streaming. It has been a pleasure to talk to you, Andrew and Heatley. I'm going to let you get away now to Derry, because all of those Derry girls and boys are waiting for a much more interesting school day tomorrow than would otherwise have been the case by watching the coverage that you're going to bring out. The best of luck to both of you in terms of doing what you do to make sure that the sport gets as wide an audience as possible, and hopefully that the commercial necessity will follow in from that as well. Heatley, yes.
Rob, could I just say one thing? And that is, one of the things that we're looking to do the whole time is to bring new voices to present and to commentate on the sport. And I'm particularly conscious that we don't have as many female commentators as I would like to have. We recently launched a little campaign where I want to run a training course aimed at females who want to get into the broadcast end of cricket. But I just wanted to mention it to you because one never knows who will see what it is we're talking about this morning. So if you have an interest in broadcasting or commentating or presenting, do please contact me, and one never knows what will happen. And the final thing I want to say is a million thanks for having us on this morning. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to talk about streaming, and to thank Cricket Ireland for their vision in doing what it is they have done. Thank you, Rob.
It is a pleasure indeed, and we'll do a little piece on that, because women in sport is one of our key areas of focus and interest as well, as indeed are a number of other different areas.